You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Are you a diehard comic book collector?
Or maybe a lapsed fan?
Maybe even someone who has never picked up a comic book in their life. Hi, I'm Remso Martinez.
And I'm Mark Claire. Every single Wednesday at the Second Print Comics podcast, Remso and I take a deep dive into the storylines, character arcs, moments, and events that made us the fans we are today.
Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever else podcasts are available.
Check out more from the Second Print Comics podcast at secondprintcomics.com.
Prepare yourself. You're on the run with Remso W. Martinez.
So a little behind the scenes action here. I am recording, as of right now, this episode, obviously, but I'm recording a bunch of episodes back to back because, two things. One, out of my control. Two, in my control. The first one is, if you've listened to the last couple episodes here, or even the Second Print Comics podcast, or you've caught me over at The World According to Ben Stein, you'll see that, hear that I have not been coughing as often. I am pneumonia-free. I am COVID-free. I am COVID pneumonia-free. I am feeling fine, except for the past week I noticed that I stopped coughing and I was feeling okay, except right now I can feel it. There's something in the back of my throat that's just not all there. And I think it's just maybe allergies or something, or maybe I need to throw in another blanket. But, for everything I do, I have to be able to talk. I mean, having access to your voice matters for all things, but for everything I'm doing right now, it really does matter. So I want to go ahead and take advantage of it while I still do. Second, I am taking a short trip in the coming weeks to North Chakalaka, North Carolina. I'm driving to go see an old Army buddy of mine, and we're going to go ahead and do a buddy stew and have a ton of fun. And I'm going to come back and, figure out what to do next. But welcome to On the Run. It has been an interesting time to get back in the flow of things. I'm at a point in my life where I feel that I think I've always been honest with you, but I want to let you in on more of where I am now and where I want to go with this show and my other escapades. But I feel that in order for you to truly understand that, you have to understand some of the things that led us here. I've said this once, and I'll say it a million times, because every episode is somebody's first episode. My journey to getting back into podcasting was rather unexpected. I had stopped my original show, Remso Republic, Remso Martinez Experience, back in the spring of 2018 to go and write my first book, Stay Away from Libertarians. And then during that period, it was really time for me to aggressively try and find work. It was not until 2020 where we had just wrapped up filming. We were halfway. Yeah, I think we were like halfway through filming season 2 of my television series with my brother, The Witching Hour. And I had wanted to get back into politics, except I'm a firm believer that if you have nothing to add, you really have nothing to say. And I feel that, during that time, if I was going to get back into politics, I was obligated to speak about politics all the time, every time. And to a large extent, I still do that, but I didn't want to do that for a podcast. I'd been there, done that, had a good time. I can tell you this, if I was just doing hot take politics all day, ratings and downloads would be through the roof. I would already have been adopted by like RT or The Blaze or whatever other outlets are out there. But my brother and I were driving back from a photo shoot for the witching hour, and he said, you should just do it because you enjoyed it, and you know enough people, and Chris Spangle has that outlet. We are libertarians. Maybe see what they want to do. Maybe you could do something with them. And I said, nah, they don't want to bring me back. I'm not a real libertarian. It was funny. And I shit you not, 2 days later, I get a random message from Spangle saying, hey, we want to expand the network. You want to come on? And I was, at that point, I'm like, it's the sign. And I told him straight up, it's not going to be like the old show. It's not going to be the old show. It's going to be something entirely different, entirely new. And the focus is not going to be politics every single episode. And he said, I'm cool with that. And what's funnier is that it was right around March 2020. We're getting everything set up. This was supposed to be a travel show, believe it or not, back in the before times, before everything happened. And right when the lockdowns happened, and all my trips, all my personal trips, all my work trips, everything that I was going to use to get content for the show was basically canceled. So I was like, oh shit. What do I do? So I had to quickly work on the marketing materials, and it was going to be, we're going to travel. No, that won't work because we're not physically going anywhere. I gotta sound more poetic in a way. Let's say we're going on a journey through life. And I really, I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about everything I did because, I'm a real person. There are things that I have an interest in, and there are things I do outside of the show. The paranormal tourism, type show I did where I would go to popular and some very not popular locations, see whether or not they were haunted, as we've discussed in past episodes. You can catch everything in the show notes today if you want to go ahead and watch that. Both season 1 and 2 are out. I want to talk about that stuff. I want to talk about people living different type of lifestyles, off the grid, people trying to find financial independence, digital nomads, morticians, cops, homeless people. I mean, everybody. And, it's a beautiful thing because this show has really expanded my worldview, and it's given me the opportunity to ask questions and learn things that I would have never had anywhere else. And, there are certain parts of me that are like, maybe I should go back to school. Maybe I should do something else. But really, this podcast and all the other projects I do, they've not only expanded my networks, but they've helped me create friends for life. They've taught me skills and knowledge that I would have never obtained any other way. And, it's about the journey of putting yourself out there and seeing what you can do. So I graduated from Liberty University in 2017. I don't talk about it a lot, but in 2016, I was in a pretty bad car accident. I had already been dealing with a pretty bad concussion a few months before that, and just as I was recovering from that, I was in the accident. Got another concussion on top of that concussion. It turned into a severe chronic migraines, and I also messed up part of my neck. I had a pretty big protruding nerve, a hemorrhage nerve that was sticking out of my neck, and I would not know about it for about a year and a half, actually, because dealing with the military healthcare system, I was in the National Guard at the time, the healthcare system provided was absolutely horrendous. That, and I was also finishing undergrad. I wanted to go to work after that, so I put off my health, dealing with that chronic pain, dealing with over medication use, because doctors were just throwing everything at me, and it was really tough. Honestly, 2017 is a blur for me. I almost remember nothing. I wasn't working full time. I was trying to do my show the full time as full time work. I really don't remember a lot of it. I mean, I can remember a lot about my life. I'm only 26. I haven't done that much. But 2017 through mid 2018, when I started getting proper treatment and everything, and when I finally got my my surgery in 2018 to go ahead and take care of that nerve, they literally burned it off. It was called a radiofrequency ablation. I don't remember much. I mean, anyone that lives with chronic pain, both physically and with migraines. It's a silent nightmare that we have to deal with, and it has affected my personal life as much as it's affected my professional life. It's one reason why I work at night typically, because I need things to be dim and I need things to be quiet. It wasn't just because I like to sleep in and I'm a night owl. It also became part of that. I've also got chronic insomnia that is basically, treated, but sometimes it comes back in really bad spurts. So I'm a mess. I'm a terrible mess. And I also gained a bunch of weight during that time. So that turned into some really dark times for me. My confidence was at an all-time low. I did not think very highly of myself, and I was just sad. And for anyone that has been through a period of depression like this, you understand that it just gets to the point where you just stop feeling, and you just stop thinking about what you want to do long term. You no longer become a goal or oriented person. You're just kind of taking things day by day, and that's a tough, terrible way to live. It's not fun. My father was also deployed at the time, and for me, growing up in a military family, my dad's been gone a lot, but I like to spend time with my father. He's my best friend, and for him to not physically be here because he was over there and the time differences and everything, it's easier now than like let's say 2006 when he was in Iraq and there was no Facebook or anything like that. I could send him messages and we could send emails, and every once in a while we could go on Skype and video chat each other, but it's not the same. And at this point, my first book had already come out in June of 2018. That kind of got me back on the block, so to speak. It got me out there talking again. I had to put on suits and be presentable and shave and not show up to events drunk and stuff like that. It was a time where I'm just trying to figure myself out. I had a great publicist who was helping me out, Gabriella Hoffman. She talked me up to a lot of people, and she made me presentable for the most part. But my father was coming back. We hadn't done much of anything as, father and son in a while, because he was also deployed my senior year of high school. After that, I joined the military, went to college. We had gone on some weekend trips together when I moved back to Virginia. We went to Shepherdstown. I remember we went kayaking there. It's a lot of fun. If you go to Shepherdstown, West Virginia, lots of active outdoor stuff. But what we hadn't done was we hadn't gone on a trip. We hadn't really done anything where it's just us trying to focus on having fun for a few days. So my father decided to go ahead and plan a trip to Iceland. Now, I don't know if he knew this, but I had always wanted to go to Iceland. I mean, he did too, but I think for a while, for like a full year, I tried to get him to do it in like 2013, 2014. So I think I planted it in his head. In 2013, 2014, there was a movie that came out that not a lot of people saw because it wasn't what they were really expecting, but it was Ben Stiller's first directorial debut called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It had Kristen Wiig in a role that was actually good for her, unlike Wonder Woman 1984. And basically it's about a guy who basically wanted to travel the world, wanted to do all these great things, except his father dies when he's a teenager, so he has to work as a kid and work really hard as a young adult to help out his family. And, he just gets a corporate job at a place called Life Magazine, which, used to be a magazine, and he works in their photo department. So, working there and working in the photo department, he gets to live through and imagine his life through the photos of the people he sees actually experiencing things around the world, good and bad. And he wants that, but he's just content with his life. He just doesn't think it's going to get anywhere. And long story short, for those of you that haven't seen this movie, and really it's probably, I think I can say it's my favorite movie. he has to go on an adventure to find a lost photo that was taken by Sean Penn's character, who's like the world's biggest badass photographer. He loses the photo, so he has to go and try and find, the duplicate or the negative or the save file, because apparently this guy only works through like Telegram and stuff, so he's hard to find. So he ends up going on an adventure by tracking him down to his last couple whereabouts. And I mean, the film primarily takes place in Iceland. Well, he starts in Greenland, then he goes and he takes a boat over to Iceland. Then he comes back and gets more clues in New York where he's working. And then he goes to like Afghanistan, and somehow I think he ends up in like the Himalayas or something. It's a crazy film, but the gist of the film is in Iceland, and it's one of those places that's just, it's so barren, and I think not a lot of people really know anything about it. Watching that movie, I'm just like, this is so crazy, with the volcano scene and the black sand beaches and everything. I'm like, this is out of this world. So, watching that film as a young person going through a big transition stage in my life, it really left an impression on me. So here I am, kind of like in my own Walter Mitty mindset. Life is not great. I'm seeing all my friends and all these other people my age going off and doing amazing things. I'm lost. I have no clue, and I just get contempt with it. And I say this about watches. Like, I've got really expensive, nice watches, but, during this time, I didn't wear any of them because I'm like, Tag Heuer is for winners. Omega is for winners. And, I thought, vacations are for winners. I mean, people are going to look at me. They're going to be like, why is he going on vacation? He should go to the gym or get a job. And, we end up scheduling a trip. We were going to be there for about 8-9 days. And actually, no, it was more like 2 weeks. So, yeah, it was about, let's just say a week and a half. So anyway, it's my father, it's myself, and it's my brother, Ryan. We were getting really into photography at that point, had just started doing filmmaking around that time. So I'm just thinking, I'm going to go ahead and do this trip, and, I'm going to try and just have fun. Try not to think about anything else. I was also applying for a couple of jobs, and one was at a job at a public relations firm in Arlington that I had gone through like 6 interviews for. I had done like a ton in person, and I was like the top contender for that. And it was a dream job of mine. And I had gotten a call a few days before our trip to Iceland, and they had basically told me, hey, we don't have that position now because we gave it to somebody who we thought was a better candidate, except we want you to come here. We're going to go ahead and make a position for you. And we've already got the budget approved to bring on another person. We want you on our team. Just give us a week or so, and we'll get back to you. So I said, okay, I'll be in Iceland. I won't have my international, plan for my cell phone with me. So, I mean, you could send me an email, and they're like, nah, I'm not much of an email guy. I'll call you. And I remember that. He said he's going to call me. And this is a person I had met with at least like 4 or 5 times, several in person at this point. So the first thing we do is we're at the Dulles airport. We flew Icelandair. And the thing about Icelandair is they're not like, Air Emirates or something like that, where you've got like the beautiful women and the amazing service. Icelandair had billed themselves as one of those types of airlines where it's just beautiful stewardesses and amazing service. It was like a 4 or 5 hour flight straight, and not gonna lie, Icelandair was pretty shitty. The women were, they were pleasant. They weren't the supermodels I saw in the marketing, and they weren't that nice. And they all spoke English, and they all knew it fluently, so it was not a lost in translation thing. They weren't that nice either. They gave us a bottle of glacier water because, and that should have been the first thing to tell me that this country is a little odd. They really boast about how clean their water is, and Icelandic water does taste different. Glacier water is different. I will attest to that. But they're kind of short with us. They throw us all a bottle of water right at the beginning of the flight, like as we're still like we had just finished taxiing and we're like ascending into the sky. Usually when they would say it's not safe to move, they're just like walking around like throwing bottles of water like Tony Romo, hitting people in the face. It was just odd. The pilots, I feel like the pilots could have used a few hours of instruction. That was odd, but at least it wasn't WOW Airlines, which went out of business a few years later. My girlfriend's brother and his wife, during their honeymoon, they took WOW Airlines. They were going to Europe, but they had to do a layover in Reykjavik. In Reykjavik, Iceland. And as they were waiting for their layover, WOW Airlines announced that they had just completely shut down. So they were stuck in Iceland for a few days. I mean, they just left people there. Like, just the whole thing just shut down as people were still working. And they're like, sorry, you've got to find another flight. So I think they flew Air France, but they didn't even get a refund. It was ridiculous. So, Iceland Air and WOW Airlines, rest in peace, WOW Airlines, not the best when it comes to your air travel options. But we get there, and here's where I know my decision-making skills are definitely hereditary, because I get this from my father. We were staying in a small apartment, which is very pleasant because my college dorm was bigger than this room that the three of us were staying in. It was one bed. Several of us were going to have to sleep on the floor. They had like these little cots. It had an electric stovetop and a sink and a bathroom, and it was about the size of a closet. And we land in Reykjavik. We land at the Reykjavik airport. We take a bus in town. We get off at our quote unquote apartment. And the only nice thing about that was like it was in the middle of the city, which usually I'd be like, oh, that must have been so expensive. Not necessarily. Here's the thing about Reykjavik. Like 95% of the country lives in Reykjavik, but I'm pretty sure Fairfax County, Virginia, where I live, is bigger than the population of Iceland. Like, it is a quiet freaking town. There is no rush hour. Everyone is freaking related to each other. And I shit you not. One thing I learned doing my research for Iceland is that you have so many cases of people going to bars and accidentally hooking up with their cousins that they didn't know about. They actually had to somebody created an app. I'll try and find the name of the app. They had to literally create an app. I think it translates to English as like cousin kisser. And what it does is before you're going to consent to hooking up with somebody at a bar, you basically have to put in some information, and this app tells you whether or not you're related. So it's a small population. And the one good thing was like literally where all the travel agency and tour companies, where they would pick everyone up for like every tour in the country, because everything starts in Reykjavik. It was literally outside of our front door. So like it was one of those situations where it's like, this is the city. There's like nobody here. It's a lot of tourists, and it's everything you want to do in the entire country, tour wise, guide wise, is right outside our doorstep. So it worked out. But not necessarily as we got there. My father had told us, the Icelandic government has made it so that way you could literally drink the purest water on earth straight from the sink. Now, if you're a traveler or if you've traveled overseas, you know that when you land there, do not drink water out of the sink. Don't drink water that does not come from a bottle. The reason why is because every country has different standards in terms of how they treat their water. So regardless of where you go, if you go to another country, you're going to be dealing with different water standards. Case in point, my father should have figured this the fuck out. When he was in Korea as a young officer, I think he was a first lieutenant at the time, he went to a well on base because he was thirsty, and he drank from it, and he got like these microbes in his stomach that made him severely sick for several weeks. And everyone was like, don't drink the water from the Koreans unless it comes in a bottle, which is, done differently. because you will get sick. So you would have thought he did that. But no, he's telling us again, the Icelandic government has made it so that way this is the best water on earth. You could drink it from the sink. We don't need to go out and buy water. So what do the three of us do? We land after a long flight. We're looking at our map of where we're going to go the next couple of days, and we go ahead and pour ourselves some glasses of water straight from the bathroom sink. We clink our glasses, we drink it, and holy fuck. The sickness I felt in that apartment in Reykjavik was worse than COVID. I can tell you that because I was puking and I couldn't sleep and I was feeling terrible and I'd skipped a couple medications and I'm jet lagged and the Icelandic language is weird, so there's like nothing on TV except a few English channels playing reruns of The Big Bang Theory. So my brother and my dad, they look at me and they're just like, how did you get sick? How are you sick? So for 3 days straight, I did not leave the apartment. So for 2 days, because we had 3 days, we were just going to walk around and explore the city, and then on the fourth day, that was when we were going to start another 5 days of tours. My brother and my father go out, and they're experiencing Reykjavik, and I'm just dying. So on our first tour, which is taking us to the black sand beaches in the small town of Vik, I'm finally better, and we're on a bus. It's about a 2.5 hour drive out there. And this is also, so it's like I'm in a new country. I also hadn't left the apartment in days. So like it all felt very like overwhelming for me because Iceland is just a country like no other. I've gotten the pleasure of getting to travel to like, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and they're all very different. Even parts of the United States are starkly different from other parts, but like Iceland is out of this world. There are geysers everywhere. There are swarms and flocks of sheep and mountain rams everywhere, and it was just overwhelming. So we get to Vik, and some of you may have seen this from Game of Thrones. I know you see this at the beginning of Star Wars Rogue One, where it's like they land at the beginning of the film, and it's just black sand. This is where they filmed it, and they've filmed a ton of movies there. But I remember the next couple days after the Vik trip, and I think we went back to Vik again for something different. We just got to see things that, you might see on like National Geographic or something, but it's just out of this freaking world. And I can't pronounce all these things. So I went ahead and pulled up the names and how to pronounce them. But like, one of the places that we got to go see was the Jakaslarin. I'm going to fuck it up a lot. So just be with me here. Glacier Lagoon. And I mean, this is one of the most crazy things I've ever seen. So we get to this lagoon where they call it Diamond Beach because what you have is like little glaciers that, get smaller over time. They will go ahead and actually beach themselves, like if a whale or a dolphin or something gets beached. So you've got this black sand beach on this side of the island where you have like all these glaciers that are like thousands, hundreds and thousands of years old that are just, it's the clearest type of bluish ice you've ever seen. And they get beached on the black sand and it looks like something out of Interstellar. Interstellar was another movie they actually filmed in this location. And, you could literally, They only advise swimming out because the water's, right at freezing temperature. But like what they have is they have like canoes and they have, boats that will actually take you out and you can actually touch a glacier. And I kid you not, my father, my brother, and I, we get up to a ridge and we actually pull out our drone. And I'm mad at my brother because years later he's not shown us the drone footage. I don't know why. He's always giving a reason. But we get the drone and we're looking out at this lagoon and it's just crazy. And we see this boat coming back to the beach to finish a tour. And literally like a 30-foot above above the surface glacier literally tips over. Like it flips over. Like it's crazy. And it doesn't make a giant sound or anything. It's just like it just flipped over. So now what was at the bottom below the surface of the water is now on top. And what you see is that it almost looks like glass because, you know, the part of the glacier that's above the water is exposed to air and everything else. And right at the bottom, it's just, you know, it's extra freezing. So it literally flips around. The people on the boat look and they're freaking out because they think it's going to like drag them underwater like something out of Titanic. And my brother catches this on the drone and we just watch it. And we're like, that 30-foot thing, which is probably like 60 feet, if, you know, assuming it was proportional to the bottom, it just flips. It sounded like somebody had dropped, had dropped something heavy in the water, but not as loud. Like it's just one of the most alien things I've ever seen. So everyone on the beach, everyone on the ridge where we were, get a better overlook shot, and everyone on the boat. It's like everybody, you could feel everyone's attention just go to that, and they're just watching that, and they're like, that is so weird. So that was one of the things that, I mean, just completely blew my mind. And, you know, I'm gonna link over to my Instagram. It's just Hey Remso on Instagram. You could scroll way down and you might be able to see photos, but I've got an article here that's got really good photos of a lot of the places that I went. And, it looks like glass sculptures. It is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. So, I mean, it felt alien, and it's just so different. I couldn't tell it was actually real. So then, we get to go see a whole bunch of other mountain ranges, a lot of stuff from Game of Thrones. We went to the South Coast to see the beaches at Vik, and they have this tessellated cave that looks like something straight out of, you know, a film that takes place on Alien Planet. Basically, the side of this mountain that is hit by the water over years, for some reason, a cave formed, but doesn't look like a regular cave. And it's not even that deep. It's like somebody dented a perfect hole into the side of this mountain where, because of the coastal changes with water and, water currents and everything else, it's on the black sand. So you could walk into the cave and take photos. I'll try and post some photos here, but it looks like steps. It looks like something out of a movie set. You look at this and you're like, how the hell can nature do this? Like, this has to be man-made. Like, Disney must have put billions of dollars into making this thing. And they're just like, no, water, pressure, erosion, and time, as the one tour guide said. And he said it in, like, you know, his accent. So it's like water, pressure, erosion, and time. It was just, it's just so cool. And as I'm watching this, like, I'm getting out of my funk. Like, I am thousands of miles away from home. I am seeing things that even I didn't predict I was going to be able to see. It was crazy. And it's called Renisfara Beach, right outside of Vik. And you guys have to see, if you're listening to this, especially, at this point, you have to see these photos. I'm going to link to the article. But the next day, we got to see something called the Golden Circle. Actually, let me take that back. It wasn't it was me. Because remember how I got sick earlier? Well, karma's a bitch. At the end of the first day's tour on the bus, my father and brother just start puking everywhere. In fact, as we were at Diamond Beach, my dad grabbed me as everyone was walking back. He's like, I just need to put my hand on your shoulder. I'm like, what's wrong? And he puked all over my boots. And that was not that fun. So basically, the next day, I go on the next tour myself to go see the Golden Circle. And the Golden Circle was Thingvellir. I'm totally screwing this up. I couldn't even pronounce it then. Thingvellir National Park, Gullfoss Waterfall, and the geyser area known as Stroker Geyser. And, Thingvellir National Park was also called the old Congress or the old Parliament or something like that. Basically, it's where all the Icelandic, the Nordic tribes would go, and it's along the continental divide. So you see, literally, you're standing on a tectonic plate that is still moving. And it's beautiful. It's like this giant slab of just pure earth divided, and you see this beautiful stream, and it's just like something like I felt like I was in Skyrim. Like it was crazy. And I'm looking around, and I look at the tour guide, I'm like, man, this is so beautiful. And the stream, I mean, I bet you guys could do like, small boat races. I'm tranquil. I'm just looking around, admiring the beauty. And he looks at me, he's like, we used to drown witches here. And I'm like, a long time ago, right? And he was like, well, up until recently. And then I'm like, okay, this is different. It's different. At the end of it is the Oxafars waterfall, and it's crazy. So I mean, I'm just walking along this, and I'm like, I'm walking on a tectonic plate. This is absolutely insane. At the end of it, I mean, we got to see a whole ton of things that I just don't even remember, but the geysers were crazy. I mean, you could almost walk up to them. You don't want to walk up to it, but I mean, just seeing them bursting. The beautiful thing about nature and the beautiful thing about traveling far away from your typical surroundings is that you really get to see how incredible the Earth is. And I mean, astronauts in space, they say this, and we're talking Americans, Russians, Japanese, Korean, everyone that's been able to go up to space, they all come back with the same message. It's like when we look down, it's just such a small planet, and we see it move every night, and it's just it's amazing how when you look at it, it puts the world it puts existence in perspective. And this was that experience for me, just getting to witness all of this, because you just realize how remarkably strange the world is, and it's just something that you can't really get anywhere else. And this was one of those moments where I definitely put myself out there to get sick again. But we went to another set of waterfalls. They were twin waterfalls called Skogafoss and Seldenfoss waterfalls. And they're some of the largest waterfalls in Iceland. I got some great pictures there. But the thing about Skogafoss is that if you can there's a break in the fall where you can actually climb up the mountain and you can stand behind the waterfall. The thing is, though, that the steps actually end about halfway through, and you basically have to climb yourself. Nothing that, if you're mobile, you can get there, and as long as you watch your footing, anyone can get up there. You don't need to be, an experienced mountain climber to get up there. But, I'm at this point in my life, my body's just not where it needs to be. My confidence is not where it needs to be. I used to do a lot of cool stuff my first couple of years in the Army. Rappelling, squad level tactics, riding in helicopters. I mean, I did a lot of, I was on the school's Ranger Challenge team during the spring. It was all the cool things that I was able to do, to be a precision athlete. All that was gone, and I'm just thinking, it must be nice to see all the land from behind that waterfall, to get to stand behind a waterfall. So I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go and do it. And I was huffing and puffing and sweating, and I must have made some grunting noises, but I get up there and I look around, and to see God's beauty in that way, it's one of those moments I could just close my eyes and remember it so vividly. And, at the end of the waterfall, there's a stream. And they're very eco-friendly when it comes to everything. And one thing the tour guy said was, this is one of the few places on Earth you could walk up to the stream and you can drink the water, and it will be the cleanest, purest water you will ever drink in your life. Now, remember, they had also said that to us a million times, and my dad made us drink the sink water, and I thought I was going to die. But part of me, I see this other tourist from Italy, me and him stand next to each other, and I look at him, I'm like, you want to drink from the stream, don't you? And he's like, yes, they say it's so good. And I'm like, okay, well, if you drink from it, I'm going to drink from it too. I drank from it, and I swear to God, it is like drinking from the fountain of youth. It was fine, and I did not get sick from that. Just absolutely crazy. we got to see some of the other touristy spots too. We didn't get to the farthest southest end of the island, but a few days later, my dad and my brother are fine. We get to go explore a few other places. Go run around Reykjavik, which is an expensive as hell city. I think I paid $7 for a can of Coke. Ridiculous. And I like to experience food, the cuisine when I go to places. If I believe that every culture has great food, and that's how you can learn about each other and develop a connection. But let me tell you, if Iceland was a food group or something, or was a certain meal, it would be mayonnaise, because it is the worst fucking shit I've ever had in my life. It's lamb stew everywhere, and like just I mean they eat fermented shark testicles. Like, they don't even have a McDonald's. Actually, they tried making a McDonald's there, and they had one McDonald's in the entire country, and nobody wanted to eat from McDonald's. So McDonald's closed. I think it's one of the few developed nations in the world that does not have a freaking McDonald's, because McDonald's could not survive there. So, I mean, crazy on that end. But the day before we left, the mountain range around the city, the Black Mountains, that's something like that in English. One thing we wanted to do was do something a bit more adventure-y that we couldn't do. Like, if, let's say, my mom came, my dad was able to go ahead and link us up with this company that does ATV rides. And what they do specifically is you do ATV rides around the range, and you get to the farthest, the highest point of the mountain, and you can watch the midnight sun go down behind the city of Reykjavik. So we're waiting outside of our place, and a whole bunch of buses come by, and none of them are ours, and our guy's like 30 minutes late. Then this dingy van comes up, and this guy that looks like a freaking Viking, scary dude, pulls up, and he's like, "Martinez," and we're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Get in the van, we go to ATV," and we're just like, okay. He hasn't talked to us the entire time. It's kind of shifty, and we're getting farther and farther away from Reykjavik. So then he pulls us up to what looks like something out of like Batman versus Superman, the wharf, where it's just like these dark, cringy warehouses. So we get out of the van, and he's like, "Wait here." Scary dude. He walks around the corner. We don't see signs. We don't see ATVs. We don't see anyone. My brother and I, we look at our father. And my father looks at each of us, and I look at my brother. I'm like, "What's going to happen now?" And he cuts me off. He's like, "I'm going to take him high." And I say, "I'm going to take him low." And we both look at my father, and we're like, "And you're just going to kick him as much as you can as we get him down." And as we're prepared to fight our potential kidnapper, the big door to the warehouse opens up, and we see ATVs and riding suits, and obviously he was not there to kidnap us. It was our actual tour. What we didn't realize was that this was an advanced ATV course, and I had never driven an ATV in my life. So he gives us he gives us a breakdown. He's a bit more friendly at that point. He's like, "Okay, you all know how to do this?" And we're like, "Not really." So he's like, "Oh, easy. It's like bicycle. Go faster." So he just says, "Just follow along, and there's no speed limit, so just be safe and keep close." So I'm just freaking out, because I've got the full gear on and everything, the jumpsuit, the helmet, and it felt like Luke Skywalker in the land speeders on Endor and in the Return of the Jedi, because it's just black sand and giant hills, and I'm flying off of where like dirt ramps and stuff. It was crazy. I felt like freaking James Bond, John Wick, and the whole time I'm thinking, this is so awesome, and I'm fucking scared. At one point I was going too slow, so the guy actually fell back, and he lifts up his visor, and he's like, "Fast, fast!" So I'm getting yelled at by this Viking on an ATV, and we're just racing up and down and around the corners, and I'm trying to dodge giant rocks in the path. It was insane. I'm like, who the hell would let people who have never ridden an ATV do this? But it was so fucking fun. I was terrified for my brother and my father. It was just like, this is insane. So we get to the top of the mountain, and at this point, it's like 5 minutes to midnight. We look out, and it looks like the sun is lighting up the entire country. And as it descends, you could see darkness beginning to fall into the city. And it is the single most beautiful view I've had in my entire life. The next day, actually, no, that ATV ride along the mountain range around Reykjavik was the day before our last day. My brother and my father, after that, they felt really sick. It's like they got better, then they got a little bit worse. So they're like, we might go walk around in the city in the afternoon, but you're going to go see, a giant glacier, a landlocked glacier. So basically, it's a glacier that is literally just smushed, like it's just planted flat between two giant mountains. And it's one of the largest landlocked glaciers in the world. So I go on a tour to see that, and I just remember it actually was not that cold, so I could wear like a vest and a flannel. And this is actually my profile pic on my personal Facebook. But we just I didn't do the tour because it was a little bit more expensive. You actually wanted to hike on the glacier, you could actually do that. I just got to walk as close to it as possible, and it's just I felt so small. The photo doesn't do it justice. It doesn't. I mean, it's this giant fucking glacier, and you're just looking at it. It's like, this is crazy. It's stuck between two giant mountains. And, one, that's my favorite selfie, but two, it's like, that was where, like, everything from the last couple of days, it was good for my soul. Because just like it had forced Walter Mitty, I was not chased by an erupting volcano debris, but like, with the ATV ride, with seeing the glaciers, with getting to go see these just remarkably crazy things with the waterfall hike, and just getting to just be in awe of existence. It was one of those moments where it's like, I am so small. My problems are so trivial. The world is so big and so unexplainable. I mean, of course there are explanations for everything, but for me, it's just like, you just look at this and you're like, how and why? And it awoken something in me. It made me excited to explore again. The next day, we're back at the Reykjavik International Airport, and I had apparently a couple missed calls. And I'm trying to call it back because in the message from the one firm, it was like, Remso, please call me back. I call the guy back, and there was not too much of a time delay, so I must have called him as he's finishing work, and it's like his whole tone changed. He's like, hello, and I'm like, hi, sir, you tried calling me, we were talking about the new position, and literally he said, oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but I forgot about that, and we won't be going through. So I just look at my father, and he's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, it's trivial. It's one job out of many potential jobs. And I felt like shit. Like it had kind of dampened my time, but I got back and immediately a friend gave me a job for a couple of months, getting back into politics a little bit. That's another adventure I'll talk about later. That I ended up traveling a bit for that to another crazy place. But, that it doesn't have to be Iceland. It could be anywhere that's significantly different. It could even be in your own backyard. One of my favorite trips was a trip I took myself back during the height of the pandemic and the lockdowns, just driving in my own backyard of Virginia, seeing things that just, simple, big stuff that's not often on the touristy maps and stuff. Like it's just, I know that for myself, I have to travel. That's why a lot of these restrictions have been so difficult. But that was a point in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no interest. I had no goals. And, I thank my dad for taking me and my brother on that trip because I needed that. And, it's just one of those moments where I look back and it's like, what was something that was not, a big loud moment that changed me. And it genuinely was that trip. I don't think many people say vacations change them forever. It's like, oh, it's a trip I'll never forget. But truly it was a trip that changed me because it showed me that, the world is an amazing place and there are things out there that happen even though they shouldn't happen. and stuff that you might not be able to catch it on camera immediately, but you're just there in that moment. It reminds me at the end of the film where Sean Penn is about to take a photo of like with the last Bangladeshi snow leopard or something, and Walter's like, "Why are you staring at it? You're gonna take the shot before it runs." And he's just like, "Nah, this is just gonna be for me. I want to see it with my eyes." And he moves from around the camera on the tripod, and he just stares at it. And Walter and him just stare at it. And I don't remember if he gets the photo or not, but the big purpose of that moment is, sometimes you don't want to separate yourself between the world and a screen or the world in a lens or a viewfinder. Sometimes you just have to see it. It's like, I've got some acquaintances and former colleagues who are like, "Why would I go there? I could just fucking Google it. Why would I take photos of something that I could just Google it?" And it's like, it's different. And, ultimately, like how that film made Walter want to reconnect with the world and try new things. And, he had that spark of life again. It literally did that for me. And it's one of the reasons that stuck with me for so long that I wanted to come back and do On the Run. And even though things have changed, aren't we all better, especially for all of you who have been with me for a while? Aren't we all better for the people that we've met through here, for the things that we've learned through here, for the topics and the questions and the conversations that we wouldn't have had otherwise? Because the world is a giant, big place, and it's beautiful. And I'm in awe of creation. And last story before we wrap up, puffins. They're the porgs from The Last Jedi were based off puffins. Puffins are the most adorable bird ever. I was told by a tour guide that they're the least distinguished bird in Iceland, because when Iceland was kind of put on the travel radar after a big volcano erupted, pausing global air traffic, people began to realize, oh, Iceland's a country of people with cool things. So the tourist boom, which happened before, right around 2015, 2016. That's why my dad looked again and he was like, oh, trips to Iceland are cheap. And I've had friends that went there before me. My good friend Matt gave us a lot of recommendations. Andrew took his girlfriend there and he had a ton of fun. So a lot of people I know were going to Iceland, and it was just good timing. But apparently there's a story of a flock of puffins at one of the black sand beaches near Vik, and this drunk American tourist wanted to go pet a puffin. And what the puffins did is the tourists got in the water, freezing water. What they did was they slowly drifted out to sea more, these adorable little things. And the guy's just, he's trying to get in the water, but he's drunk and he's cold and he's getting farther and farther out because he wants to pet the puffins. He's like, "Come here, little puffin, I want to pet you." What they do when he starts to, lose consciousness and he's starting to pop up and down, they float back to him and they begin to kick him, just under the water with their little feet. They just start kicking him down to drown him. And apparently he washed up on the black sand a few days later, and everyone looked around and they're like, "Why are all these scratches on his face?" And the puffins are just out there looking back at the humans. The most beautiful bird I've ever seen, also known as the least dignified, least distinguished bird in all of Iceland, according to an interesting tour guide who looked like Liam Neeson. That was fun. Anyway, go out and explore. Go out and have fun. Travel is good for the soul. And go out and do things, have an ounce of courage. Be Major Tom floating in the tin can and you're just wondering, are you going to make it home? If I could get up that waterfall with my fat ass and get that beautiful moment, we can all do a little bit of something to show an ounce of bravery in our life and experience the adventures around us. Good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of where you are in the world, your situation, the administration, the weather, road construction, there's always a way. And there could be adventure, whether it's thousands of miles in an alien land, very different from your own, or even in your backyard that you have yet to explore. Go out and experience the beauty of the world around you. I'm Remso W. Martinez. Find me on Instagram, everywhere else, at Hey Remso, Parler, and Spreely. It's a new platform I joined, Spreely, just at Remso, R-E-M-S-O. Please, if you enjoyed this, if you listened all the way through, a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts costs you nothing, but means everything to me. Lets people know what you like about the show. Makes me feel good about myself, really, and helps us expand the fun we're having. As always, be good, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. Good night.
You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com, like The Chris Spangle Show, Liberty Explained, The Brian Nichols Show, The Boss Hog of Liberty, Freedom Strips with Keaton Tucker, On the Run with Rimzo Martinez, Gingerarchy with Tricia Stewart-Mann, Upward, Libertarian Activism, and Now Hear This. Tune in now and we're going to help you sound smarter when talking with your friends.